So hi, Only Guys Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Bree.
And Joey. And we're CLIFFDIVER.
And with some questions today about the upcoming album, Birdwatching. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you guys feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Good. Yeah, people seem excited. And we're really excited. We think that this album is really a natural evolution for us and is a lot more CLIFFDIVER than we've ever been. And we're excited for everyone to hear kind of how weird we get with it. So people seem psyched, and I think more people will once they hear the album for sure.
Hell yeah. The album fucking rocks.
Oh, thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
This is my favorite piece of work that you guys have made so far, and I'm so excited for it to be on streaming services so I can stream the fuck out of it. Because I don't want to, get sick of it on, SoundCloud, and then when it actually comes out, I'm not giving you the streams. But dude, when this fucking drops, it's gonna be over. It's over.
Thanks, Glory.
Hell yeah.
We're so excited.
Hell yeah. And I saw you guys in Asbury on the early November tour. Seems like people are into the new stuff. People were into the set, but people were into the new stuff. So I think the response so far from the outside looking in has been good.
And we can't wait to play the whole album live pretty much and never play an old song again. That's the dream, because we really think that they're a ton of fun live, and was a big part of writing it, was going, okay, now this part's going to be massive live. Yes, we need this. We want this, because we want to be able to have a blast playing them and for everyone else to just be swept away. And the response to the new stuff on that tour was pretty wild. There were some nights where, people are singing the two new songs that we were playing louder than any of the old ones. And that was a really cool moment. I think Atlanta was the big one where Bree starts off Days Gone, and like half the crowd knows the words Days Gone, and we were like, okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, hell yeah.
Awesome. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, so Birdwatching, the original title that we came up with in the studio was a collection of songs for Birdwatching Volume 4. That's
I still say should have been the full title, but
it's fucking beautiful.
Yes, that can be her full name. Mm-hmm. And it kind of started, basically, right, the boys have just been really into bird watching, and we as a group have kind of gotten sucked into it. But on a deeper level, bird watching, there was the accident that the boys were in last year, and afterwards I think Matt started bird watching and kind of investing in things for his backyard, and it kind of spread through the band. Joey was next, and he, then the two of them had this app downloaded where they could track birds and find out whose song was what and who's in the vicinity. And it kind of just became this ritual, for the boys especially, but now all of us. And I think it's, for us, it kind of represents that phase, I don't know, and the kind of idea of healing yourself and the craziness of the world and nature, and the way that they kind of went back to that, after something horrible happening. And so on a very shallow level, we've just been into bird watching lately.
Fair enough. Is it a specific bird that's on the cover art?
We just have the house on the cover. On the inside, you'll have to ask Joey Birdmeister Duffy to tell you what bird that is on the inside. I'm not sure.
haven't even looked at the art in like months. If I saw it right now, I could tell you. Yeah, Matt and I both we're in the Centennial Club, which means we've identified over 100 different individual birds. It was not immediately met with a lot of interest from the rest of the band. It was mocked at first, because Matt and I'd be like, what was that? Was that a blue-eyed warbler? I'd be like, oh yeah, dude. There was one night we were at this gas station, and it's like middle of the night, and we're somewhere in New Mexico, and we both hear this noise, like something's flying around real fast. We're like, I think that's a night bird. There's not a lot of nocturnal birds outside of, owls and stuff like that. And so we're chasing this thing around this rest stop in the rain, trying to get a picture of it so we can identify it. Ends up being a nighthawk, which was sick.
That's actually badass.
This is at the beginning, so everyone's at the van going, dude, it's like 11:30 and we still have hours to drive. And Matt and I are like, 1 second. And then by the end of the studio, everybody, was out because we record in New Jersey on this lake and Lake Hopakon. Hopak, right? I said it right that time.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. There was just so many birds. It was migration season. So being on the lake, we just sat out there for hours and everyone would it's just a way to relax and chill. And Kingfisher is the best bird, though, in case you were wondering.
Gotcha.
Kingfisher.
All right. Yeah.
And that's not the one on the cover.
It's nothing's on the cover. So if we use our imagination, it could very, very much be the bird in the birdhouse, except I don't think kingfishers flock to birdhouses because they're mainly a wetland bird.
The more you know.
Learning so much right now.
That's what we're here for in Cliff Diver. We educated on emotional health and bird facts.
Yeah, there you go. That's a bio right there. So can you guys tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yeah, this album was very different than our sort of our last experience with our first LP, the first full length. This one we didn't have as much material going in. With the last album, it was kind of like we had everything demoed out. We knew exactly what we were doing for the most part when we got there, and there was very little that I feel like we had to do on the spot, especially compared to this. We got there and we very quickly learned, that we were going to have a lot of trust in the process, and that we were going to have to like jump in with both feet and be ready to work, because we knew that a lot of the writing would be happening at the studio as the date kind of approached. And then we got there and then we met Brett, and everything just sort of fell into place after that. That first day, I think we worked like 12 hours, and then it just continued, and just every day was showing up and working until your lungs gave out or your fingers couldn't do it. And we wrote so much, and it was crazy because there's 7 of us, and someone would be in there tracking, someone else would be in the control room with Brett listening to the composition, making notes for future stuff, and then me and Joey are in the next room writing, because tomorrow we got to hit that, we need something for this song. And so it was collaborative in a really fun sort of carousel way, because we're working as we're writing, and so much was happening in that little studio. And so I think we did, it's so representative of what we can do in a place and a time. It's not so much this, I've been working on this for 10 years. It's not a Christopher Nolan film. It's just who we are when we're in Lake Hopakon for a month with Brett, and I love it. I love it for that.
Hell yeah. Okay. So obviously the first record was like, we got everything, tweak some things in the studio. This one's like, we got pretty much nothing, and now we're going to go write the whole thing in the studio. Is there a process that you guys prefer more now that you've done both?
Oh, 100%. The one we did with this one. There was a lot. Making the first album was an amazing experience, and Seth Henderson is a great producer, and we really already kind of had an idea of what we were trying to do. We had a story, we had all this stuff, plotted out, story plots, like this is the song that happens in this time of the story, all this kind of stuff. And I felt so much more organic this time, where it was like, we had a bunch of half songs, really. I'd have a verse, or Bria'd have a verse, or we'd have a part of a chorus, like a line for a chorus, and that's all we had for one song. And but being able to be there and it being like, this is coming out of who I am right now. This isn't something I wrote a year ago, 2 years ago. Like with some of the last album, we'd had it written, some of the songs, a year and a half before we even thought about the studio. But this one was all, like Bree said, very collaborative, and we all got to kind of build together. So now there's this opportunity while we're writing lyrics, and we're coming back in the other room going, okay, here's what we have for this verse. What do you think of this? And then in live, real time, someone could be like, that one line's hitting weird. There's the one word in that line that I don't like. And then we could be like, okay, gotcha. Because we like to think that if someone can get past all 7 of us, then it's probably okay. It's probably not an embarrassment, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so being able to do it together, fully together, and fully kind of learn how to write songs as a unit was incredible, and I had such a great time. It was a boot camp for songwriting. That's what we called it. It was one of the hardest things we've ever done. I mean, 30 straight 15-hour plus days was ambitious, to say the least. But I mean, there was something in there that once the song started coming together, and it just allowed a lot of freedom of creativity, a lot of freedom for people to be themselves on the album instead of trying to find spots for things. I think that just leads to being, in my opinion, a much more listenable album, because it's all 7 of us all over the place, and that's my favorite thing. It was a delight. I mean, it was stressful, really stressful. A lot of pasta was eaten to cope with that stress.
Yeah.
Because there was a place across the street called the Grotto, where you could just get like the biggest plate of pasta for like $8, but it was terrible for you.
Oh, well.
You know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, up in Lake Hopatcong, you're kind of starting to get like outside of civilization. It's a beautiful area. I've been to the studio before up there. It's a beautiful studio, but you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. You're like 15 minutes from the next town that's like got a store.
Yeah. We had Pop's Bagels almost every day, and that was the best part, probably the studio. If you haven't been to Pop's, you gotta go get that bagel. It's ridiculous.
All right.
Gotta go to Pops. All right.
Gotta go to Pop's. That coffee's like rocket fuel.
Fucking love coffee. Hell yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, damn right. So, what song off the album took the longest to write, and which one is each of your own personal favorite?
I don't remember any of them taking particularly longer. No, that's not true. Probably, Black Lodge, because it was the very first thing that we had started working on way back in the beginning of like, okay, LP2 time, like, let's get to work. And I had the verse, and that was it. And we kind of played with it, but nothing sounded right for the chorus. And so we just left it alone because we couldn't figure out the chorus. And then Bree comes up with this awesome pre-chorus chorus that just ties it all together. Well, we're in the studio, I think the day we were recording it, and we were like, all right, we need to finish this thing. And Bree's like, all right, I have this great, this idea I've been working on. What do you think? And it was like, yes, that's perfect. And it just goes back to the collaboration side of it. So that one probably took the longest for me. Bree probably has a different perspective on that. But my favorite song has to be probably Midnight Mass. Just because that one was really personal to me, about sobriety, and being able to write a song about, that life and walking away from it just meant a lot. It meant a lot to be able to process those things in a positive manner. So that's my answers.
Oh yeah.
Damn right.
I think, honestly, yeah, Black Lodge took a hot minute. It really did, and you might be right that it felt longer than it was because it was the first thing that we had started. When we sat down to start with the album, that was the first thing that came up was that song and what we had for it. And I think between that one and probably Lord Have Mercy, those were probably the two that took the longest, or that we had to kind of squeeze the hardest for and get there. The finish line felt really good with those two. And I think, oh God, my favorite song on the album, when we got done recording it, Days Gone was my hands down favorite. And maybe I've listened to it too much, so now I'm like falling in love with some of the deeper tracks where I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to release this. Yeah. But I would say I'm really excited for 30, Flirty and Thriving to be out.
Yes.
Because that was another one that we had kind of started writing early on, and just we didn't really know where to go with it, and then we got in the studio and everything came together, and that one was so much fun to record too. So I'm really excited for 30, Flirty and Thriving to come out as well.
Hell yeah.
That one is my personal favorite. I fucking love it. It's yeah.
We're releasing that one with the album as like the album single, so we're excited to start playing that one live immediately. It's going to be too much fun.
Oh, it's going to be insane. I'm
Love
very
it.
excited for you guys.
But that also goes to like Brett though. Like when we're writing these songs with like the Midnight Mass one, I just had the chorus and I was like, that's it. It's an interlude. And he goes, don't be lazy. Go write me verses. And I was like, it's an interlude. Like it's just supposed to be 30 seconds. And he's like, you're being lazy. Go write me a song. And I was like, oh, all right. And then it turned into like my favorite song we've done. And that was the same thing with Big Boy or Lord Have Mercy was coming in and being like, okay, we're gonna rewrite this whole thing. And Brett's like, no, it's good. It's good. Stop doubting yourself. Like, let's do this. You guys got this. And he gave those pep talks all the time. And it was like second day in the studio, and Brie and I are both crying because he's like, you guys are good songwriters. That's why I'm working with you. We're like, thank you. Thank you.
That's so sweet.
Hell yeah,
A lot of crying in the studio.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
We had some concept of some of the interlude type things that we wanted to do, the Guitar Pro 5 theme song, and but it was very much an after the fact of putting them together. We kind of, once we got the vibe down, it was kind of easy to know that things were going to fit together, but we definitely gave ourselves a challenge in trying to figure out the flow. And I think it was Tyler who proposed it, and he was like, okay, I've listened to everything, and this is the only way anything makes any sense, and it also rules. And it was like, that's it. That 100%, you're right. Once I heard it, it was like, that's no brainer.
Fair enough.
Well, and that came about too because we had 15 songs. We recorded 15 songs, and so we're trying to decide that. And then, so we eventually, 3 of them, we were like, these are great bonus tracks. And so then once those 3 went away, it was like, oh, all right. Now Tyler's like, yeah, okay. Now it makes sense. Like this is how it has to work. And it was easy after that. Like there was not a lot of arguing when it came to that kind of thing, because it's like, whatever's the best idea, we're like, done, easy, done. We have too many other things to worry about.
Yeah, true.
For sure.
You mentioned those were 3 great bonus tracks. Are you alluding to maybe a deluxe edition of the record, or is it too early to tell? The album ain't even out yet.
It's so early. Who knows? This world is a crazy place. And, God works in mysterious ways, and, we'll see.
We'll see.
Oh, we'll see.
Tell.
Yeah, time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah.
All right. So are you guys able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
That's a tough question. We ran the gambit. Like, there was a lot of things personally in each one of our lives that were going on while we were in the studio. And, Brie and I being parents, and well, Donnie is a parent, and Gil's a parent now too, pretty much. So there's the added pressure of like being away from your kids and not being able to be there. Like, I'm a soccer coach, so missing games, stuff's really hard. And not to mention like 30 straight days, 15-hour days, you'd sleep 4 or 5 hours some nights. It wears on you after a while, and trying to feel like you had to get it right was tough at first. But there was also a lot of like, we leaned on each other a lot. We came together a lot. Me and Brie writing this thing, there was just so much time we just spent talking about our lives and talking about what we want and our dreams and our hopes for the album and our hopes for the future. And Brett was such a calming thing. Like, that's Brett's whole thing. He had these inhalers, these little Thai herb meditation inhalers for combating vertigo, right? They're crazy. It's like Vicks with lemongrass or something. But anytime you get stressed, you come over and be like, take a deep breath. And so and then he'd be like, are you afraid? Does this make you afraid? We'd be like, I'm not afraid of it. And he goes, okay, good. If you're not afraid, then we can keep going. Let's keep moving. And it was just like very much Papa Bear. Sometimes he had to be more Papa Bear than he probably wanted to. There are 7 of us, and we can be unruly at times. But it was crazy. It was transformative. It was hard. But I mean, I think there was a lot of peace with it when we go, okay, this is what we do. Like, this is what we do. We do this. We make songs. We make albums. Like, we're a somewhat professional band. Like, we can do this together. And that was a super just unifying thing. And I think that the studio really transformed a lot of our relations and how we talk to each other, and brought us together in a really real way that was like, all right, we got to do this together. We only have 6 of 15 songs written, and even then we really only have about 3.5 songs written. So
Bree, was your headspace similar?
Yeah, and that's the struggle, right? Being in a band. And I mean, as a parent, obviously my demands are very, very obvious of, you know, what my home life looks like. But when you're going to make that kind of investment, it's like this pressure and this weight that you feel to like make it worth it. Like I tell my daughter, you know, if I'm going to be away from you, it is going to be worth it. I am going to work my ass off. I work my ass off on tour. I work my ass off in the studio, because that's the trade-off. And if it's going to be worth it, then I better be doing my damnedest. And so I think we all kind of felt that while we were out there, and there was just this immediate buy-in. There was not, I don't know. It's like Joey said. I think we were all very nervous going in. We didn't, especially with so little material. It's like, am I going to show up in a place that I can write? Are we going to get along with this guy? Or is there space for us? Just all these little things, and all you know is that you're going to be spending a month there, and that you better leave with a CD done, and you can only hope that you're proud of it, and you know, whatever it is. And so kind of tackling that right out the gate, the fear, because I think that's how I went into it, with a lot of fear and a lot of pressure and a lot of almost like pre-guilt, you know, where it's like this had better be good. And then we got there, and it was like, no, this is going to be good. Let's just do the work now. Yeah. And that switch, I think, changed everything, because I knew some things that we wanted to say. We knew that there were points that we wanted to make, and that there were topics we wanted to cover, but it also happened so naturally. Like we didn't have to force our point into anything. It was kind of like, you know, oh man, you know, that line that you had written before, this is the song for that. Like, you know, and these things became like amalgamations of work that we've shared with each other for the past, you know, 2 years since we wrote the last one. So there's references to things that we came up with a year ago, but in the studios when they floated to the top, and it was like, oh, it's time to use that, like, you know. And it's such a cool freaking marker of again, just like that time and place, who we were right then, going in scared, leaving peaceful, like being at peace with it. It's such a cool reminder, I guess, also of why we do this and what we do, and that you can capture it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys left the studio like feeling confident and feeling that you had went in there and achieved the job that you wanted to, because obviously it is this big job that you're putting on yourself to go in the studio and be like, we are writing and recording the record in a month, and if we don't have it, then what the fuck do we do?
There was so much stress right before we left, where we were having writing sessions 3-4 times a week, just throwing things at the wall. And most of the songs that we came up with during those writing sessions didn't even make the album, because we were trying to force it. We were like, we got to have songs. We can't go in there and embarrass ourselves in front of Brett and say, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And then that ends up being what it is. It's just, we'll figure it out. Yeah. And we did. And I think that was one of the best parts, was you can be as stressed as you want going into it, but when you get there, you just have to let it go, and just trust yourself and trust your bandmates that everybody's in it. And Bree said that perfectly. It was just a buy-in. Everyone said, okay, I trust you. This is why we're doing this together. Like, you know, one of the songs I was like, I'm writing a song about sleep paralysis, and everyone's like, all right, let's write a song about sleep. And it has that breakdown where Bree's screaming, and it's the hardest part of the record. I mean, it's like, we just trusted each other, and that was remarkable. It really unlocked a lot of doors for us, I think, as a unit.
Love it. Hell yeah.
So happy to hear that.
So how do you guys recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? So you're doing the car with friends and dark with headphones on. Is workout album, party album? What do you guys personally recommend?
I think it's good drive-in music. I mean, a musician's always going to say that, right? Because it's like a perfect hostage situation. Like you're stuck in traffic and you are absolutely going to listen to this all the way through. And I know I have your attention because you're playing it on your phone, your phone's plugged in, whatever it is. So I love a classic hostage situation. So I'm going to say get in the car, go for a drive. And also because, if you need to cry a little bit, you can cry in your car. No one's looking at you, buddy. That's okay. So I'd say it's good driving type beat.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
agree. And I'd also say that one thing we are intentional about this album is like each song's for a moment, right? They're all based on moments in your life, like, and so I think each one of them is going to hit differently at different times. So I think I'm excited to hear, there will be some days where people are like, I'm blasting Garbage Plate all day because it's a rock and roll type day. And then some days it's like, I'm gonna listen to Baby Billy and cry all day because that's what I need to do. And so I think there's things for every moment, and we kind of wanted to make it like a soundtrack for your life. So you have all sorts of emotions, all sorts of situations, and we can just be all things to all people. That's what we. All right, Brie. We're talking about Baby Billy, so I had to slip the the ex-worship pastor in there somewhere.
Fair enough.
So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your heads. I want you guys to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. 3 words each, 6 total, no more, no less.
Fun, grown up, that's 1 word with a hyphen.
Okay.
Which works in a lot of ways. And catchy.
There you go.
I think it's catchier than anything else we've done.
Catchy as fuck.
Love it.
I'm gonna say it's dynamic.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to say that maybe even like challenging.
Ooh.
Okay.
Dynamic, challenging, and fun.
Ooh.
There you go. Those are good.
Well
so
said.
in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
That things are going to be okay. Like nobody knows what they're doing. That's the key. There's not some moment where all of a sudden everything will be better, and at the end of the last album, it's kind of like this, hey man, I've got it all figured out now. Like no more bad days. Like we're on our way. And I think this album's a lot more, like you got to deal with it. You got to deal with some stuff, but you're going to be able to do it and you're going to be okay. And you're going to be able to live a life that you want and not just survive. And it's going to be hard and it's going to, challenge you. Like Bree said, I think there's some songs on here that are challenging, that are hard to really process and hit things that are pretty universal, grief and your relationship with your parents and how that evolves and how that makes you who you are, but how you have to step out from these things that no longer serve you. And I think hope is still very much buried throughout this whole thing, but also that all of your emotions are valid. You can be angry, you can be frustrated, you can be fed up, you can be agitated or wistful or nostalgic. All these things are valid emotional responses to what you're going through. There is no right way to process your trauma and your past. I mean, there are wrong ways, as we talked about, in some of our other songs, but I think it should leave people with a sense of like, you can figure this out. If we figured it out, you can figure it out because we're dumb sometimes. And so if we can do it, you can do it. And I think that remains consistent in all of CLIFFDIVER. It's just us trying to be like, hey, you're not alone in these feelings and they're valid and you're not broken because you're having them. But we got to figure a way.
I always feel, I'm sorry, my dog's.
It's all good.
I always feel like this album is kind of like life sucks and then you die in the most optimistic way possible.
Okay.
In any way that can be a positive thing for you, whether that's in that this all ends someday, or like you have opportunities, or sometimes it doesn't. But I feel like it's kind of that part of adulthood where you just kind of accept that, like, it's probably always going to be hard to wake up for work. If you wait for it to be to feel good about waking up and participating in like late stage capitalism, that's not going to happen. And I feel like there's an admission of that there's only so optimistic that we can get in this day and age when, you know, there's still just atrocities being committed. You know what I mean? Like it's just there's always context to it. But I think it's that idea that, like I said, life sucks and then you die. Maybe that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more happens after that. Maybe it doesn't. But get the fuck out of my face about it. Like you know what I mean? It's whatever that means to you.
Huh.
Oh yeah, love it.
I love it. Yeah. So, are you guys able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of this album, positive or negative?
There was a lot of positive. We all got really into Tetris. That became something. He had a old game system that, like a 3-in-1 that played SNES and classic Nintendo systems and Sega, and we started getting really into tennis for a while, and then it was Tetris, and then everyone would, when we were stressed, you'd go in the other room and watch someone play Tetris, and then wait for your turn, and everyone's, you know, encouraging each other and living, and it got intense. There were times where people would be yelling, just like, "What are you doing? Why would you do that? I don't know. I panicked."
Okay.
Yeah, so that became a big thing. We played a lot of board games that got intense. Some nights it'd be like 2:30 and Bree would come down the stairs because, you know, some of us would be yelling, some of us, not all of us, me included, about the rules and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of exhaustion that led to little moments. There are some that we can't talk about that are very funny. I can just say without saying, you know, can I not find my tall boys first? Head ass was one of the best moments in the studio, but we're not going to get into that one publicly, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
So there's a lot. But it was really, I think, the small moments, the people checking in on each other, going, "You doing all right today? Like, how's today?" Or like, "Anything I can help you with?" Or, you know, there was a lot of communal, you know, there's a lot of us and we're living on top of each other. And so there became a lot of ebb and flow that was some days great. And other days we all learned how we could also be better people.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah. Bree, anything for you?
Yeah, I think the highs, because we're all very familial, so I feel like the highs are always kind of the same thing you think of with like road trips. I'm thinking of shenanigans the guys got into at truck stops, or you know, the board games and arguing over beds and or whatever it is, you know. But I think the time in the studio, I don't know, I don't think any of us were expecting to feel so comfortable the entire time. And I just, stepping back, that's probably the biggest positive, is because I think you do your best when you feel safe, you know. Healthy amount of pressure, sure, but there was a lot of safety provided for us by each other and also by Brett and Barbershop Studios, their whole staff. There was just, everyone was just on board. And, you know, I think that's like a special thing, you know, because you're paying a lot of money and you never know what you're showing up to. And just being able to be so comfortable and work 14-hour days and not feel it for a second. And then also going to Pasta Shop for my birthday was also like the highest high.
Nice.
Yeah, if you're in New Jersey, Danville, Pasta Shop, best pasta in the world.
Pasta Shop.
All right. We'll take that into account.
Shout out Tommy.
Shout out Tommy. And for this last question, boom, replacing the entire band in a horror movie. Who will die first and who is going to survive until the end?
Gil dies first. 100%. Gil will die. He'll die first because he'll go try and confront the dude. Whoever's trying to kill us, Gil will be like, "No, I've had it with this. He's being a head ass. I'm gonna go over there," and we'd be like, "All right.
Good luck, man."
I think
Gil would 100% die first. I have to.
That's really all I
like,
actually know for sure.
That I know. Okay, I actually know this for a fact. Gil would go first, and that would be horrible. Let me say that.
It'd be sad. We'd all be sad.
It would be so sad. Donnie would make it till the end. It would be one of those movies where you think everyone's dead, and then a guy pops his head out of the ground and is like, what's everyone been up to? It would be one
Donnie
of those.
walks around the corner. What's up, bro?
Had found shelter and just waited the appropriate amount of time for everyone to kill each other. And then he would emerge unscathed and probably have read a few books while he was hiding. Like that's exactly what would happen. But nobody would survive except for Donnie.
Elliot gives up eventually and just goes, I don't care anymore. Like, kill me, dude. Yeah. Tyler probably figures out a way where he tries to team up with the killer at some point. No, Tyler would fight the killer, sacrificing his body for the rest of the band, because that's who Tyler is as a person. Be like, I got this! And he's like pulling a knife into him. He's like, run! And Matt would be trying to figure out ways to make Bree and I sacrifice ourselves so he could survive, but like really subtly. He'd be like, what was that sound? Bree, go check that out around the corner.
That's
and then
crazy.
He 100% would do that. But I think Bree and I would survive the longest until I would probably sacrifice myself with Bree as well. You know. Yeah. And then Donnie saves Bree because you have to have the final girl. That's just how it is. That's just how it is.
Oh, I thought Donnie was going to be the final girl. Yeah.
I'd survive a long time. It'd be like at the end where I got like the gut wound, and I'm like, hell of a day, huh, Briana? Hell of a day.
Like just smoking it. Like, can I get a cigarette?
You're like, you haven't smoked in years, and I go,
just let me have it.
These are terrible. I hate this. Why did it have to be in the morning? This is bull crud.
That's crazy.
That's great. So as I said, that's all the questions you have today. Is there anything that you guys would like to plug?
We're Catch Us on tour. We can announce this, Bree. They're the first people we get to tell because it'll be out after the announcement next week. Catch Us on tour this fall in the West with Prince Daddy and the Hyena and Ben Quad. We're opening up for those homies, and Hearts of Gold. It's going to be all over the West Coast, Boise, Arizona, everywhere in between. We're going to be all over the place, all over the West, and we hope to see you there. We can't wait. We're going to be playing a ton of these new songs live, and we're so excited. We're so excited. It's crazy.
That's fucking awesome. Stacked ass lineup there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sounding. This guy's been Bree and Joey from Cliff Diver, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.